What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and today we're going to be talking about Bioshock, one of the most very greatest and most influential game of gaming history amongst other games in that type of genre. So, here's what I can say about this game. This is one of the very unique games I have ever played amongst like pre-2017 or any other games that have that type of role-playing mechanics as well. But when it comes to Bioshock, the one thing that this really game does do amazingly well is the plasmids. The plasmids is basically, I feel like, is the bread and butter of this game. Other than this game does have really good, amazing world building. It's in a dystopian world called Rapture underneath the water, built by Andrew Ryan. And so I would say that it's a very interesting way of how to make a game like this. There are creatures in this game known as splicers, and what the splicers are, they used to be people, much like Jack that you play in this game, the protagonist. And so what's really cool about this game in general, other than Rapture, using the plasmids, they're much like similar to that, like X-Men type of powers. It's, as I previously mentioned in other videos that I have made, it has to do with the writing, the world building, and the storytelling. I think those are the three main factors when it comes to games like this, and it really makes it robust in a way, makes it very intricate, makes it mysterious. And Bioshock really hits that in all fronts. It really does. And initially this game came out only for the Xbox 360 back in the day. This was an Xbox exclusive. But then a couple years later, they decided to say, hey, we want to bring this game to the PlayStation 3. And they actually eventually made this game to the PlayStation 3, Sony's black box. And so I think that was a really good move because this game really influenced a lot of people of what first-person shooters are today, especially when it comes to RPG mechanics and what this game does and how it tells in its own unique way. And so I love the world of this game. I think the world of Rapture in Bioshock is one of the most interesting things I've ever seen in a game like this. Other than Prey 2017, I do kind of have a little bit of comparison between that and Bioshock because they do both play very similar. But for what I do know is that Bioshock is somewhat of a spiritual successor to System Shock 2 in a way, and so is Prey 2017, because in Prey 2017, that was made by Arcane, obviously, which is a subsidiary company from that of Bethesda. But Irrational Games was part of 2K back in the time, and they're no longer around. And Irrational Games made Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite. But I do not think if they had any hand in Bioshock 2. I could be wrong, but I'm not going to worry about it. Now, one thing I will say about I love the gunplay in this game. I think the gunplay in Bioshock is so cool. And, you have a Tommy gun, you have a shotgun, you have a pistol, you have a wrench, you have a crossbow. You have all these, real-world weapons in a game like this, but you can also upgrade them. And they have a place called Power to the People upgrading stations in this game. But they're varied within each type of level of Bioshock. And that's what makes this game so cool at the same time, because you have to be careful how you upgrade your weapons. And that's where the upgrading system comes into play. You have to be, like I said, you have to be very careful, because if you want to upgrade a specific type of weapon that you want to use maybe more often than not, if you want to, you can do that. Then you want to upgrade that weapon. But however, when I first played through this game, I actually ended up upgrading all the weapons, not in a single playthrough, obviously, but I was actually able to get all the weapons upgraded after every New Game Plus, because this game has a New Game Plus, and thank God it has a New Game Plus. I feel like when it comes to single-player games in general, they should have a New Game Plus, because, you know, that's where the higher replayability comes in. I think it's a very important factor when it comes to single-player games to have that type of mode. But that's just my opinion, either or. You can say whatever you want. Now, this game has one of the best world building I have ever seen in a video game, much like System Shock 2 back in the day, or Prey 2017, or Arx Fatalis, which I never played back in the day either. That was a very old school game as well. But overall, I think when it comes to world building, especially in Bioshock, being in Rapture, being in this specific, unique utopia under the water, it's invigorating, it's exciting, it's a little dark, it's a little foreboding, it's a little cathartic. But that's where the creepiness comes and vibes within the world of Bioshock. I love that. And that's why I like games like this, and I would really love to see games like this even more. Not just having the first-person role-playing-esque type of game to this type of style, but overall, I think when it comes to Bioshock, it does all those different unique features very amazingly well, and it astounds me. And this game does run on the Unreal Engine. I really can't say which Unreal Engine that it uses, but it uses it magnificently. And I can't say that more than enough, because I think when it comes to games in general nowadays that we are getting on the newer generation of hardware, they are starting to use more of the Unreal Engine. But however, we recently had the Dead Space remake come out not too long ago, earlier this year in January. And the Dead Space remake is using, I believe, the Frostbite engine, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But it's also using some certain type of... It's not using the Unreal Engine like I believe the Callisto Protocol is using, if I'm not mistaken either. I don't know. But that, I'm just speculating, I guess. Maybe I should need to look more into that more often than not, than rather just like speculating and being theoretical. But, so... Now, what I will say about this game, I think I love the gunplay. I think the gunplay is a lot of fun. The only quirk that I do have when it comes to this game, really, is that you can't aim down sights like you normally can when it comes to normal first-person shooters, right? Obviously you can't do that, because it's not just because it's an older game, is because they just didn't implement that, because that's where I believe that's where the role-playing mechanics comes in. And they just wanted to do a game like this very different in its own unique way, and a very different gameplay aesthetic style. And I get that. So I think that's the only thing, like I said, about that. But other than that, I think Bioshock is one of the best games I have ever played when it comes to the first-person role-playing gameplay aesthetic to it, and the way how the game just tells itself with a unique type of story. The world building, I love the world building in this game. I think it's one of the best I've seen. Like, I think I mentioned that before, so my apologies on the repetition. But like I said, I can't get enough when it comes to a game like this that just does something so amazing. And Prey 2017 did a really good job on world building itself as well. And I believe when it comes to games like this, or Prey 2017, other than having that role-playing or RPG mechanics that this game has, or like Prey 2017, is that I want to see games like this again. I want to see that world building. I want to see that role-playing mechanics come back into the fray. I want to see a good, unique story. And I think that's where Bioshock does, though, amazingly well, too, is the story. I think the story, it's very interesting. I really can't get too much into it. But the only thing, like I said, I mentioned about was the fact that it has to do with, the world of the game. It's Rapture, right? It's a dark, foreboding, utopian place underneath the water, a city. And you're going through different types of parts of this whole entire structure, but it does it so well because there's some really good environmental storytelling. I think that's where Bioshock falls in to that world building aesthetic though too. And that's where this game is really more interesting too. And I want to see, like I said, I want to see other games like that or have that type of style like from what Bioshock does. Now, what I want to talk about here, though, too, is I love the plasmids in this game. I think the plasmids in this game it's one of the most unique things I've ever seen in a game like this. Prey 2017 didn't have this type of play style in this game. But, however, they did have unique different types of powers, obtaining them through, like, Typhon abilities in Prey, which are the enemies in the game. But, however, in Bioshock, you have all these different types of plasmids, and you feel like you're an X-Men, right? Like Wolverine, Cyclops, or Storm. You have all these different unique X-Men characters, right? But you can be like that in this game to a certain way. You have Winter Blast as a plasmid. You have Electrobolt as a plasmid. You have a swarm of bees as a plasmid. You can do all these unique things with these plasmids, and it's astounding of how they can really affect your enemy's behavior in that certain type of aspect and concept. And it's so unique. And I love that. And like I said, I want to see games like this, not be like more Bioshocky, but, do something different in terms of like different types of powers, and that's where I feel like that, games, I believe nowadays, they're getting really good. It's just that, like I said, we don't see games like this anymore, and I would really love to see games like this again, much like Bioshock, much like Prey 2017, much like games like that will have that experimentation in knowing what they're gonna do. And that's where these games are just absolutely amazing. One quick note in here, too. What's really interesting about Bioshock as well is, in fact, that you are basically just doing a lot of things that you want to do. And there is one thing in this game called the camera. You are able to take snapshots of your specific type of splicer. And you will get perks to where it'll help your health or your Eve, which will help your plasmid powers, and vice versa. And that's a really cool thing as well. And I think that's where this game really falls under of uniqueness of what it wants to do, of a really good job of that world building of the plasmids. Like I said, I believe the plasmids really tell a really good story of how to use them and utilize them in a matter of quick succession. And it's astounding. Like I said, I love the way how this game just does something so perfectly, not flawlessly, I should say, but somewhat perfect, because it's just so cool of what these games can do. And so it's very, very cool of how far this game has come. And Bioshock 2, I feel, is much of a Bioshock game. It really is. And so Bioshock 2 is a separate video, and I'll be talking a little bit more about, not just about what I previously mentioned in this video, Bioshock 1, but overall, I still feel like that game, if I feel like it's going to be so much different of what I'm going to talk about, rather what I'm talking about here for Bioshock 1. And so all I can say is this: buy this game, you will not be disappointed. I highly recommend this game. Like I said, it's definitely one of the best I have ever seen. It's one of the best I've ever played and seen, and everything of what this game does. It's so cool. But anyways, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to have any comments or questions in the comment section below. Be more than happy to reply back if and whenever possible. You guys have a good rest of your day. Have a good rest of your weekend. And I will chat with you guys later. Peace.